I'm not prepared to vote yes.
You've been incredibly clear for days now. What do you think the holdup is here?
Beats me. Maybe they think I'm just going to give up or, go along, but they're mistaken. I think they realize now that we're serious, and I think Senator Tillis is pretty much on the same page that I am, so they better get real, and there's not much time left.
Republican Senator John Cornyn of Texas yesterday, prior to the postponement of a vote to advance the nomination of Todd Blanche as U.S. Attorney General.
The problem is, the problem here is that Blanche will not put in writing that they're not going to have that corrupt IRS still, where everybody gets a get out of jail free card if they break the laws of this land.
Yeah, Blanche had verbally committed to do that, but for these senators, they say that's not enough, and it's two things. It's these IRS protections for Trump, his family, his businesses going forward, just extraordinary, unprecedented shielding was being considered there, as well as
corruption.
That's the corruption and the slush fund, the weaponization fund that could be even used for January 6th convicted felons, and Blanche simply won't rule that out. And the other lesson, guys, here is this is also one of the reasons why presidents don't usually oppose sitting senators of their own party in their primaries, because when you pick them off, they feel like they don't owe you anything anymore.
Yeah.
Also on Capitol Hill yesterday, Dr. Anthony Fauci refused...
I was waiting for this hearing, and Amir, I'll tell you why I was waiting for this hearing, because I was so excited that the Republicans were finally going to admit that the president that they had been a member of a personality cult with for a decade now had actually told Bob Woodward that he lied to the American people about the COVID virus. He knew it was bad, and Rand Paul, of course, heard Donald Trump's tape with Bob Woodward saying, yeah, I lied to the American people. I didn't tell them how bad it was going to be because I didn't want to hurt the Dow Jones. And Jonathan, time and time again, he kept saying, oh, it's just one person from China. It's going to go away in January and February. He said, this is nothing. It'll be gone by April. On and on and on. I didn't see the hearings yesterday, but I understand.
I did.
They must have said that, right, Jonathan?
Joe, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's not quite how yesterday played out. The Republicans, in a particular stand, I know. Check it out. I know. This is just poor show prep, I guess. We needed to, but yeah, take a look. That's not what happened. There was none of that. There was no admission that President Trump knew how bad this was going to be and didn't tell the American people.
They talked about the disinfectants under the skin and the lights under the skin, right? They did bring that up, right? I'm getting in my ear.
No, that's it. Tell the American.
That didn't happen either. No, it's
all right, we'll
none of that. None of that happened. Yeah.
Well, this is going to be interesting. I bet Nika has something to say about
full
this.
report I had for you since you didn't do your show prep. I did it for you. Also ahead, Emma's Now legal reporter Lisa Rubin joins us to discuss new reporting on Secret Service agents surveilling former FBI Director James Comey to dramatic extents, really. And we'll bring you the latest from the Middle East, where the Iran war is expanding, with Saudi Arabia now involved. It comes as there is new reporting that President Trump is frustrated with the conflict and members of his own administration.
We're talking about a lot this morning. I mean, the Fauci thing, just sheer political theater. They shamed themselves. We Americans needed answers yesterday. We needed answers on the origins of this, the best information they had, the thinking about closing down schools, the thinking about all these other things. I mean, if it had been a normal hearing where you didn't have the chairman of the committee going in saying, I'm going to put Anthony Fauci behind bars, then as the Wall Street Journal said, we could have had that open conversation. But you start with your chairman saying, I'm going to put him behind bars. Yeah, what you're doing is you're staging nothing but a show trial. And so
great performance.
He didn't play along. It's an embarrassing performance. This guy swearing that
Okay.
And then you had other people, what's the color What's the color of your tie? What's the color of that car?
Okay.
It's like, it was such a...
Maybe you did do show prep.
Okay, I just get... I was just something to say. It was such a clown show, but there are still open questions on the origins of this virus.
All right, we'll have more
And by
on
the
that.
way, I just want to say really quickly, if they had asked Dr. Fauci or any other scientist, why did you close down schools? Because in retrospect, that looked like such a horrible mistake. Fauci probably would have said yesterday, and other scientists would have said, well, in our last pandemic, the 1919 pandemic, that was so deadly, it actually spread and attacked younger Americans. So those schools, and I remember this being said by everybody at the time of the virus, the schools were the super spreaders during the 1919 pandemic, and that is the only pandemic that we had to work off of. But we didn't get a chance to hear that yesterday because the entire hearing was framed with, I'm going to put the guy who's testifying here behind bars.
Much more on this ahead. Also with us this morning, we have contributing writer at The Atlantic, Eugene Robinson, senior writer at The
Eugene
Dispatch.
once told me, I'm going to put Joe behind bars.
I know. Senior columnist at Bloomberg Opinion, David Drucker is with us. Co-host of the Rest is Politics podcast, Caddy Kay from London this morning, where apparently, Caddy, there is a 57-minute delay to actually get to you.
You know, the British may have saved Western civilization in 1940 and 1941, but you know, they obviously don't know how to play in a World Cup when it matters, and I guess they haven't figured out the latency thing, Caddy. You got like a 57-second delay.
Wow, so harsh. So harsh. You had to bring up the World Cup as well? That was vicious.
Yeah, we did. We did. By the way, Caddy will hear what we're saying back to her next Tuesday. This is like Bruce Willis.
Okay.
You know, talking to, you know, in that space movie with comets talking to Liv Tyler.
Exactly. So we'll get to Caddy
It's gonna
on
take a
Tuesday.
while.
Okay, let's get to our top story this morning. With less than 100
good
days
movie.
until the midterms,
Yeah.
new polling shows a record number of Americans don't think President Trump has the right priorities. According to a new CNN SSRS poll, 73% of adults say the president hasn't paid enough attention to the country's most important problems. The poll shows Trump's overall approval rating sits at 34%, which matches the career low he saw at the end of his first term after the January 6th Capitol attack. His approval has hit a new low among independent voters, and he's also underwater among white voters with or without a college degree, young voters, along with both men and women. You can compare these numbers to the same point his first time in 2018 when Trump's approval rating among independents was much higher. He had a majority of support among white voters without a college degree and men, and higher support from members of his own party.
Yeah, you know, Jonathan Lemire, I was looking it up while Mika was reading these numbers, but I don't really have to look it up. I was going to see if the Democrats' own approval ratings were 50, 60, 70, 80%. Of course, no, they're not. Usually what we found is when you have these record low numbers by Donald Trump, the only people who are polling lower than him usually are, you know, in Boston, it was Craig Breslow. But yeah, Democrats have historically low approval ratings. Why do I bring that up? Not to be a buzzkill at 6:09 in the morning, but just to say that, yes, Donald Trump's approval ratings are low. What that would mean in every other off-year election is Republicans were going to get routed. That is the best predictor. Where a president stands on the economy is the best predictor. Chances are good it'll be the best predictor now. But that said, the massive financial advantage Republicans have, especially with the DNC being bankrupt right now, and also some of the radicalism that we've seen over the past week or two by the DSA, driving their approval ratings even lower. So I think this election's still up for grabs, even with the president's low approval ratings. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think Democrats, look, never underestimate their ability to blow it. We have learned that over cycle after cycle. And the financial issues are very real. When we had a story earlier this week about how the DNC was a victim of some fraud and some money was stolen. The joke that I heard from many people was like, oh, there was money left to steal because their fundraising has been so poor to this point. But you're right. I mean, this is, David Drucker, let's bring you in on this. President Trump is deeply unpopular, historically so. And that is true for many in this party as well. Republicans, there are significant headwinds here. First, there's just the history. It's a midterm election, usually not good for the party in power. He's also high prices, the war, the list goes on and on why Republicans are nervous. Democrats, as Joe just said, they're not faring much better in these polls. And they're certainly going to have to improve the sense of the brand. What does the Democratic Party actually stand for? But at least those in the party that I've talked to think that's more of a 2028 problem than a 2026 problem. I mean, they're nervous because they're Democrats, and they should be, but they think this might be enough. Trump's historic unpopularity might be enough here, combined with some candidate quality, and they feel like they've got some good ones to get them over to the finish line this fall anyway.
Yeah, I think that those Democrats are actually pretty on track here. And look, we didn't, speaking of show prep, we didn't need any to sort of understand where Trump is and the box he's put his party in. I focus on that number about not focus on the right priorities. That's a big deal. Also, the number with independents. In midterm elections, those two things are killers. What do the Republicans have going for them? And this is, I think, what Democrats have to worry about, because Democratic voters are unhappy with the Democratic Party. They're going to show up at the polls in droves to both vote against Donald Trump, but also to put people in office they think are going to fix the party and do the things that the party hasn't been doing. And so that, to me, is crucial when you look at how this midterm election is going to play out. What Democrats have to worry about is that mid-decade gerrymandering has reduced the number of competitive seats. And on the Senate side, as we've all discussed many times before, the road to any majority runs through some pretty red seats, and that's going to be very difficult for Democrats any way you slice it, even though it's doable.
I just built a budgeting app with Base 44. Mina just built an app.
So we can all build apps now?
I'm on lunch.
I got it.
Profesor de español.